Member for Langford, Juan de Fuca.
Thanks very much, Mr. Speaker. It is my pleasure to rise to second the motion that we, His Majesty's most dutiful and loyal subjects, the Legislative Assembly of British Columbia, in session assembled, beg leave to thank Your Honour for the gracious speech which Your Honour has addressed to us at the opening of the present session. Mr. Speaker, I just want to begin by acknowledging how honoured I am to be in this seat, in the legislature, in these chambers, on the traditional territories of the Coast Salish peoples, the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations, Lekwungen-speaking peoples, and thank them for sharing these beautiful lands with us. And in acknowledgement of the throne speech and the focus that our government since day one has made on reconciliation, and certainly an acknowledgement that the steps that this legislature has taken under the leadership of our Speaker in acknowledging the importance of that reconciliation journey that we're on. I want to acknowledge the Sauk Nation, the Sianu Beecher Bay, the Pacheedaht Nation, as well as the Malahat Nation, and thank them for sharing the beautiful territories of Langford, Juan de Fuca with me and the people that I have the honour of serving, and certainly acknowledge the efforts that they do in showing and sharing their cultures and traditions and outcomes with me. And in doing so, I also want to recognize that since we last gathered, there's been some changes in leadership in those nations. I want to acknowledge and congratulate the new chief of the Sauk First Nations, Larry Underwood. I've had an opportunity to engage with Chief Underwood and talk about the challenges and opportunities before us, and in particular was able to share in his first official day as chief and an exciting announcement of $500,000 investment that our government made in the new community health centre that is going to have solar panels and a solar system to be able to give it the energy it needs to succeed. I want to acknowledge a mentor to me, someone who helped welcome me into the chambers by drumming me in, was Chief Gordy Planas, who's now the former chief of the Sauk First Nations. I want to thank Chief Planas for his mentorship to me ever since I became the chair of the school district, and for being such a visionary figure in my life, and I know of so many leaders in the Sauk and Juan de Fuca area. I also want to acknowledge the new chief of the Pacheedaht Nations, Arliss Daniels, who's returning to being chief after a bit of a sabbatical a number of years ago, and I'm looking forward to engaging with her and her new chief, her new council, and in doing so also acknowledge the incredible leadership shown by Chief Jeff Jones. Jeff has been a tremendous representative for his people. We've worked very hard on a number of files, and I just want to acknowledge him for, again, his leadership since day one and showing me the important work that he needs to do. Mr. Speaker, as we begin the discussions around the throne speech, as I know that we will over the next couple of days and into next week, it also serves as an opportunity for me to be able to acknowledge the incredible voters of Langford, Juan de Fuca, who've given the gift to me to serve them in this legislature, to be their representative. I want to thank my friend and colleague, the MLA for North Cowichan, for his remarks, and more importantly, for the leadership that he's provided to his community for 19 years in this place. I've remembered watching him from home, from school when I was watching Question Period, and I know that we've known each other for a number of years, and I'm just so thankful to him for all that he's done for his community, and most importantly for all British Columbians and the number of files that he's had as a legislator, and we're certainly going to miss him on this side of the House. And I know it's not just him. There will be others who will be taking an opportunity this session to speak for a final time, and I know that we'll take an opportunity to acknowledge them. Look across the MLA for Abbotsford West, who has been an MLA longer than I've been alive. Oh. I know. Sorry, I just had to say that. It looks great, though. Looks great. He's definitely got the energy for federal politics. I know that we'll have an opportunity to be able to acknowledge members from both sides of the House in the days and weeks and months ahead in this legislative session. Like I said, Mr. Speaker, the opportunity to be able to respond to the speech from the throne also provides an opportunity for me to be able to acknowledge how incredibly important it has been for me as a new MLA to be able to be rooted in my community. Again, it's been a gift to be able to serve the people of Langford-Juan de Fuca since July of last year when I was sworn in as the MLA, and I work hard each and every day to fill the incredibly big shoes left by our former Premier and the former MLA for Langford-Juan de Fuca, John Horgan. And my approach, which I know is very similar to many in this room, and I would share an approach that's very similar to many people across British Columbia, is when you have a new role, when you've taken on a leadership role, it's so important before you act to take a step back and to listen and learn. And that's been my approach. I often, when I engage with stakeholders, with people that walk into my community office, people I see at the grocery store, you name it, I often share that if you want to talk about education, if you want to talk about building new schools, if you want to talk about curriculum, I'm your guy. I've been talking about those sort of topics for well over 10 years as a former school board trustee and chair. But in this job, it's not just education. It's transportation, it's housing, healthcare, the economy, and so much more. And really, what truly is the gift in being the MLA for Langford-Juan de Fuca is the opportunity to be able to meet people in their communities, in their homes, and talk to them about the issues that matter to them, the challenges that our communities face, the challenges that people of British Columbia face, and also talk to them about the opportunities that are before us. And I know that that's what the throne speech also lays out. The people of Langford-Juan de Fuca have given me the gift of being able to represent them, and I'm very thankful. It's a large community, starting in Langford, urban, growing, one of the fastest growing communities in our province. It captures, of course, the constituency captures the Highlands, East Souk, Otter Point, Shirley, Jordan River, all the way out to Port Renfrew. So I really do get an opportunity to be able to, on a daily basis, deal with the challenges of growth, deal with urban communities, but also deal with small rural communities as well. As we listened to the speech from the throne from Her Honour yesterday, we touched on a number of issues, and I think to the conversations I've had over the last number of weeks. I've been in preparation for the legislative session holding a number of town hall events, specifically in smaller communities that I represent. It's very difficult to door knock in Shirley. It's scary to door knock in Shirley, long driveways. I'm scared of bears and cougars as well, so that doesn't make for a success for me. I'm terrified of cougars and bears and all that sort of stuff, those critters. And so I decided why not provide an opportunity for me to be able to engage in a safe setting in a community hall. And for the last number of weeks, unfortunately, or I guess it could be fortunately, they've been on Friday nights at 7 o'clock. And in both cases, in East Souk and Shirley, Otter Point is going to be forthcoming in the days and weeks ahead. They've been great discussions with hundreds of people turning out to be able to voice their concerns on local issues. I want to acknowledge Al Wickham, the Regional Director for the CRD, for partnering with me to be able to allow for people to talk about local, regional issues that their CRD Director is focused on, and of course provincial issues that I'm focused on as their MLA, whether it's transportation infrastructure, making sure that we have water infrastructure, healthcare, education, you name it, a vibrant economy for workers, supports for seniors, you name it. They've been incredibly valuable discussions to me as an MLA. Mr. Speaker, the throne speech talked about a number of issues, and it provided an opportunity for me, as I was sitting in my seat, to think about the investments that have been made in my community and in communities all across British Columbia. And I want to start with public education, which again is my go-to, and I think folks would understand and hopefully appreciate that. I do believe to my core, and I think it's been acknowledged in our work as a government and certainly acknowledged in the throne speech, is that public education really is that that foundational service that grounds us, that creates the next generation of citizens that our communities need now more than ever. In particular, as I think about public education, I think about new schools and a growing community of Langford, Juan de Fuca, and how over a period of time, for 16 long years, we didn't get the investments we needed, and we've dealt with the challenges of overcrowding schools, more and more and more portables being added. And I'm proud to be a member of a government that has invested over $250 million in the Sooke School District to build nearly 3,000 seats. Many of them have been complete, and a number, in particular, probably close to 600, that probably more than that, actually, now that I think about it, probably close to 1,000 that are currently under construction. We have Shianu Seleki, a beautiful name gifted by the Shianu First Nations, an elementary school in South Langford that is currently under construction, that's using mass timber in its construction. It's going to be one of the cleanest and most efficient buildings in our constituency in the city of Langford. Is going to be opening up next year, welcoming the growing and rapidly growing community of Happy Valley in Langford. I also think about just a couple of months ago when the Minister of Education was in my community in Langford to announce a 400-seat expansion in two parts, one to 190 seats to Ruth King Elementary, a school in the downtown core of Langford, and really just down the road, a couple-minute drive away, to David Cameron Elementary in the constituency of the MLA for Esquimalt Chosen. Two schools that, because of their closeness to the downtown core of Langford and the density we're seeing in our downtown core, have been growing rapidly and have certainly been seeing challenges with overcapacity, and are now getting these incredibly important expansions so we can continue to ensure that students growing up in their community can go to their neighborhood school. What I'm particularly excited about that project in particular, and again, it was acknowledged briefly in the throne speech, Madam Speaker, welcome to the chair, was the fact that we're using prefab construction. And so we're beginning construction about now. Anyone who drives by Ruth King, which I have the tendency to do on a regular basis because my constituency office is right across the street from Ruth King Elementary, will see a big dirt hole right now. But in a few short months, just in time for welcoming students back to the 24-25 school year, we'll see 190 seats, new classrooms for the growing population of Langford attending Ruth King Elementary. I'm proud of the record that our government has made in education. We've got a lot more work to do, but that's not all. We've also, I think we are going to be spending a lot of time in this legislative session talking about health care. It is certainly a challenge that I'm sure all MLAs hear about in their constituency offices and their daily lives from family members. But I'm proud of the efforts that our Minister of Education, or rather our Minister of Health, has made on health care. The important work that's been done since the pandemic, really, to be able to strengthen our health care system. As was acknowledged just a few short days ago, we've welcomed here in British Columbia, and it was acknowledged in the throne speech as well, Madam Speaker, 700 plus new doctors here in British Columbia, which is fantastic. That's good news for people all across British Columbia. It's good news for people in Langford, Juan de Fuca. 700 sounds like a lot. We need a lot more, and that means our work doesn't stop. It means we continue strengthening our healthcare system. I had an opportunity to be able to engage with the West Shore Primary Care Society just a few short days ago, and they shared with me in their efforts to open up more clinics, to bring more family doctors, in particular international doctors, which I'm looking forward to touching on in these remarks later in the new role that I have. They talked about how the new deal with doctors, which has been well over a year now, that is in place, has had a huge impact on their ability to be able to recruit more doctors here to British Columbia. Interprovincial doctors, people from Ontario and Alberta in particular, but also international doctors from the UK, South Africa, you name it. We've got a lot more work to do to be able to strengthen our healthcare system. And I know as a fast-growing community that Langford, Juan de Fuca, and Sooke are, we need to continue to make investments so people can access healthcare. That's why, as was acknowledged in the throne speech, the important investments we're making in healthcare, the largest capital infrastructure program in the Ministry of Health's history, the largest, building new hospitals all across the province. It doesn't stop there. We will be beginning construction, I would assume, very soon, but was acknowledged in a previous announcement not too long ago, about a year ago, that the West Shore is going to be getting 300 long-term care beds. That is something that people, and I know that my colleague, the MLA for Esquimalt Metchosin, has been working very hard on this file ever since she got elected, to be able to ensure that when people age in our community, that they have an ability to age in care closer to home. So I'm looking forward to construction beginning on the new long-term care facility in Royal Bay and Colwood, and I know it's going to benefit the entire West Shore and Sooke region. But that's not all. About a year ago, the Premier, the former Premier, John Horgan, and our Minister announced funding for a new community health centre in Sooke. I know that the Mayor of Sooke and partners like the Sooke Region Community Health folks have been working very hard to get an idea and a concept that they've been working hard on for a number of years to fruition, and certainly acknowledge that those perspectives are perspectives they've shared for a number of years. And again, as was acknowledged in the throne speech, it's so important that we take those ideas and make them reality. And that's why the investments that we've made in healthcare continue to strengthen a system that, frankly, for so long had been gutted under previous governments, in particular the previous government before us. I want to talk about a number of other files that were mentioned in the throne speech. I want to touch briefly on the economy, obviously a file very close to my heart with my previous role in government. We welcomed over 70,000 new jobs in British Columbia in the last year. Again, we're leading in many ways. We have led Canada's economic recovery, and I think we are really in a very key position here in British Columbia with the successes we've had with our life sciences sector. That was acknowledged the fastest growing life sciences sector in Canada. And that's because of the incredibly hard work that our Minister of Jobs has done, our other folks in government, to be able to ensure that we can encourage more growth in that sector. We announced substantive investment in Accelera to be able to grow their footprint here in British Columbia, in particular in Vancouver. I think that's in the constituency of my friend from Vancouver, Mount Pleasant, or somewhere in that area. But those are going to be really good paying jobs for people all across the province, again, in particular in Vancouver. But that's not all. Again, those 70,000 jobs reflect jobs in our natural resources sector, jobs in healthcare and education, and all the sectors that make up our economy. And we can't stop. We need to continue growing our economy. We, I think, often forget about the advantage that we have of being a trade superpower in terms of the ability to be able to connect with Asian markets. I know that my colleague, the Minister for State for Trade, is working on strengthening and building relationships with partners on a daily basis. It's so important, as was acknowledged in the throne speech, that we continue that work. A couple of other pieces before I move on to a different topic, Madam Speaker, is post-secondary education. In my community, we're going to be opening later this year into next year a new university, first university in Langford, first of its kind in Canada, where you have 4 post-secondary institutions and the Sooke School District coming together, Royal Roads University, the University of Victoria, Camosun College, and the Justice Institute, in partnership with the Sooke School District, to be able to open a university so people living in Langford, Juan de Fuca, across the West Shore and Sooke region, in fact, in the Cowichan area as well, will not have to have those long commutes into Victoria just to be able to go to school. Someone not too long ago who had to deal with those commutes, whether it was in vehicle or initially on the bus, those were challenging. And I can only imagine the circumstances I've had, certainly where I'm very privileged enough to be in a position to, at the time, to have a vehicle or to be able to to have a bus pass. There are a lot of other people in my community that didn't have those same opportunities, and for them, post-secondary was not an option. And because of the investments, as was laid out in the throne speech, that we've made and are going to continue to make in post-secondary education, a new university in Langford is an option for people in the West Shore and Sauk region. It's a long time coming. I remember talking about this when I was in middle school. I remember being asked by my principal to come and participate in a roundtable to talk about the idea of a new university in our community, and I'm just so appreciative of being a part of a government that is now delivering on that commitment. I want to talk about childcare. Our new Minister of State for Childcare reminded me, and certainly because we're neighbouring MLAs, the real opportunity that childcare is. That childcare is an incredibly important social program that our government has launched and allowed to prosper in our communities, but also I think is often forgotten that childcare really is an economic boost to our communities and to our province as well. I think it was in the previous year that 3/4 of the jobs that were created in British Columbia were from women, and I think it's important to acknowledge that would only be possible because of the investments that we've made in childcare. And Langford Juan de Fuca alone, and I know this was acknowledged in the throne speech, the important work that we've done on childcare and how we have a lot more work to do, especially in communities like Langford Juan de Fuca that's growing, lots of young families. In Langford Juan de Fuca alone, we've made since 2018 over $60 million in investments in childcare programs. $60 million in those communities that I have the honor of representing. And again, since 2018 till 2023, we have been able to put in the pockets of families and parents, just in Langford Juan de Fuca alone, $34 million. We've had $34 million in savings to parents in Langford Juan de Fuca. And that's because we've been a government focused on ensuring that we can have a thriving childcare program, an important social program, but also using it as an economic driver. Also, briefly, before I change topics, Madam Speaker, also want to just highlight housing, which is really a generational challenge that we're facing here in British Columbia, but in fact, across the province, of course, but across the country and throughout North America and around the world. And I often think, as I have an opportunity to listen to the Premier's remarks, one of the things that I'm so appreciative of his leadership is the fact that he's acknowledged that we have a lot of incredible thinkers here in British Columbia that have a lot of experience on housing, but British Columbia alone won't be able to solve this. We need to hear from people all across the world, and certainly in the Premier's visits to other communities and the trade missions that he's participated to Asia last year, he was able to learn from nations like Singapore and Seoul, Korea, and take the knowledges of those governments and those stakeholders and those communities in those nations and bring them here to British Columbia. The throne speech talked about the work we've done on housing, in the incredibly important investments that we've made in social housing to build more affordable housing in communities all across the province. Again, in Sauk, a community that barely saw any investments in affordable housing under the previous government, is opening up and has opened up, is in the process of opening up the largest expansion of affordable housing in Sauk's history. My thanks again to Macola Housing in particular for the work that they've done on the projects that they've received funding from the government of BC, as well as the CRD Housing Corporation, as well as the federal government through CHMC. We've made investments in building more affordable housing, but we've also talked about supply and the need to build more housing, to be able to work with the development community, to work with not-for-profits. A lot of people, I think, and I think it's my job as the MLA for Langford Juan de Fuca, again in particular for Langford, to acknowledge that Langford has done a lot in terms of building supply in housing. They have been the leaders across the country, and I would say, in fact, leaders across the world in building more housing. I want to acknowledge the leadership that the former mayor, Stu Young, provided when he boldly said that he's going to be providing permits, responses within 48 hours, or in some cases within a week. That led to investment coming into our community, and I know that the new mayor and council are working very hard to ensure that that same investment environment is there, because we're seeing record housing, and in some cases we've seen more housing being built in Langford than the entire CRD, the other communities in the CRD combined. We're seeing more housing in Langford than in some years in Vancouver and Surrey combined. That's a fact that Langford's done an incredible amount of work. That's why I was so glad to see Langford acknowledged for that. As was recognized in the throne speech, the Building Communities Fund, $1 billion in investments in communities all across the province, all the communities that we represent. Langford received $16 million to be able to use to strengthen the transportation services, the infrastructure services, recreation, you name it, to be able to support that incredibly fast but growing community. We launched BC Builds a week ago. It's been, I think, acknowledged as a tremendous success. There's a lot more work to do to roll it out. There's already 4 projects in place. But I think a key marker in success is when the federal government recognizes that BC, and in particular our Premier, has been leading the way in the country on building more housing. The Prime Minister acknowledged that the Premier was one of a handful of people across the country that acknowledged the challenges with housing prior to anyone else, even before we had another government that sat on this side of the House that turned a blind eye to the challenges with housing. The Prime Minister acknowledged the Premier leading the way, and by doing so, acknowledged BC Builds as one of the tools that we're using to build more housing, to build housing for middle-income families. The number of people that I come across that earn a good living but can't afford rent, can't afford to buy in their communities, it's struggling to hear those comments. It's struggling to hear those stories. But BC Builds partnership in the program answers that, and it's been acknowledged that by doing so and by the announcement that we made, the federal government heard, they listened, and they cared enough to be able to bring $2 billion towards that partnership. I don't think I've ever seen the federal government move that fast. 1 week ago, BC Builds has announced the next week $2 billion towards that partnership. I think that's worth celebrating. Thank you to the Minister of State. And there's a lot more work to do. Again, we restricted Airbnb units. I know that is something that I hear from folks in Langford, Juan de Fuca about all the time. We've taken steps to build more multi-unit housing. We've taken an incredibly important and bold step on transit-oriented development, and a number of other steps that we've taken and certainly have acknowledged in the throne speech that we need to continue to do to deal with this generational challenge. Madam Speaker, the throne speech laid out our vision for building a stronger province that works better for people. And I think that we all can agree, no matter what political party that we come from, that we all have that same shared hope, that no matter where you live in British Columbia, whether it's in Sauk or Grand Forks or Coquitlam, Abbotsford, Kelowna, Richmond, Chilliwack, you name it, that we all share that common hope for ourselves, for our kids and grandkids. I think we can all agree on that. And I think we can all agree that our role as MLAs are to work hard each and every day and ensure that by the important work that we're doing, whether it's government enacting new legislation or new policies or programs, or the opposition holding government's feet to the fire on the commitments that we've made and the ideas that they're putting forward, that all we want is British Columbians from all walks of life to be able to be in a position where they can work hard and get ahead, to be in a position where they can afford a decent home in the communities that they love, whether they can be in a position to access quality health care, including primary care, a family doctor. And I think we all can agree that we want to see our kids grow up to be happy, healthy, and with every opportunity before them. That's probably one of the best parts of the job, is being able to go into elementary schools, middle and secondary schools, and talk to the future generation or what I refer to as the leaders of today, because we need them more than ever, to be able to talk to them about their priorities, the challenges that they see in their lives. It's such a valuable way to be able to collect their feedback. But again, we can all agree that we want the young people, our kids and our grandkids and great-grandkids to have every opportunity available to them. Because at the end of the day, as was laid out very clearly in the throne speech, people's priorities, the priorities of British Columbians, are our government's priorities. That's our key objective. It's been our key objective since 2017 when this government was sworn in. Because at the end of the day, we've acknowledged on this side of the House that the people of British Columbia are our competitive advantage. And we're going to work each and every day from now until the end of this legislative session, until the end of this term, to ensure that every investment we're making is in support of the people of British Columbia, because they are our competitive advantage. But I want to conclude my remarks in the time that I have left, Madam Speaker, and talking about the challenges ahead. And this was touched on numerous times throughout the throne speech, the challenges that are before Canadians, the challenges that are before British Columbians. And I want to talk about the fact that in the last session, we welcomed a new political party to the legislature, the Conservative Party. And what has brought to this legislature, and in fact to communities all across the province, in conversations that I've certainly been privy to, and I know that so many have, is Trump-like politics here in British Columbia. That is what the Conservative Party has brought to this House. That is what they've brought to British Columbia, Trump-like politics. We've already got one Trump. We don't need another one here in British Columbia. Conservatives, each and every day, have been focused ever since the leader of the Conservative Party became the leader of the Conservative Party on dividing British Columbians. And I want to spend some time talking about that. I'm not going to spend time talking about the BCUP because they're irrelevant. They've become irrelevant over a number of years. You can spend as much money as you want on advertising. And I think if you spend enough time on the doorsteps like I have in the last year, you'll see that they've become irrelevant. But what we've seen, and I think what was acknowledged in the throne speech very clearly, is a party, the Conservative Party, that has been focused each and every day, not on bringing people together, not on making sure that our communities can come together, but on dividing British Columbians. In our throne speech, we have an opposite plan. They've been focused on dog whistle politics. They've been focused on bullying kids, the most vulnerable kids in our society. That is what has been their focus. They've been focused on spreading misinformation, on pitting ethnic communities against one another, on bullying kids. That is what they've been focused on ever since they entered this House. And that is what they are spreading in communities all across the province. Madam Speaker, the throne speech reiterated our commitment to fighting climate change. But here we have a party in this House that doesn't believe in climate change. Ridiculous. In 2024, we have MLAs that don't believe in climate change. I think we can all acknowledge that being MLAs are tough jobs. I haven't been an MLA for very long, but I certainly acknowledge that there are a lot of tough days. There are a lot of tough conversations that we have with people in our communities. There's a lot of tough work that comes into our constituency office, but I value that work. I value the feedback that I get from the people of Langford each and every day. But I am so focused, as I know every member on this side of the House, and I'd like to think members on the other side of the House as well, on bringing people together at a time when you have division, but when you have a political party that is stuck in the past, and that is the BC Conservative Party. They are stuck in the past. We need now more than ever a government that is focused on the future, a government that is going to be building a province, building a stronger province that works better for everyone, building a more inclusive society where you can feel safe in your communities. The Conservative Party of British Columbia are a threat to that each and every day. Each and every day, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as was acknowledged in my remarks, we have a lot of challenges before us. We have, I was reading the Bank of Canada report yesterday that Certainly inflation has fallen to 2.9%, largely due to gas prices. But it was acknowledged as well in that report that we still face the challenges with shelter inflation, and that reiterates our need to build more housing, to build more affordable housing for people from all walks of life. It was acknowledged that food inflation has gone up to nearly 4%, and that reiterates the commitment that I think everyone in this House should have, but certainly our government has, in addressing food insecurity, using new technologies like Agritech to build more food here in British Columbia, to process more of our food here in British Columbia, so we're not reliant on other jurisdictions like California for our food. And I think was acknowledged in the Bank of Canada's report was the turmoil that we're seeing in the world with wars in Ukraine and in the Middle East, and on all of the challenges before us. Again, these are not challenges unique to British Columbia. These are challenges that every community, every government is tasked with across the country, across North America, around the world. And what I think is really key is that we need to be focused on those efforts each and every day. We should not be focused, as the BC Conservatives have been, on dividing people in British Columbia. We are going to be focused on bringing people together, and bringing people together in a way that addresses their challenges, addresses their concerns, and makes the investments. Because again, I reiterate, people are our competitive advantage. In the case of the Conservative Party, they don't see it that way. I only have a couple minutes left, and I just want to touch on the excitement that I have in not talking about the Conservative Party for the next 3 minutes, but also talking about a new file that the Premier has given to me, and that is as a new Parliamentary Secretary for International Credentials. I want to acknowledge the work that has been done by my predecessor, the Minister of State for Workforce Development, the former Minister of State for Workforce Development, now the Minister of State for Forestry Innovation, in bringing forward legislation this past fall that recognized credentials. There was a lot of work done, I know, through the engagements that he participated in, and it's now my job to get us across the finish line and get us to a place where British Columbia becomes a place that welcomes newcomers to our province from everywhere in this world, and recognizes the skills and credentials of people that are making our communities their homes. It still boggles my mind. I remember being out on the doorstep and talking to people in Langford, Juan de Fuca during this past by-election, and coming across one person in particular that shared with me that she immigrated here from Czechoslovakia well over 20, 30 years ago, came here with a master's degree, was well educated, and when she got here and wanted to practice her skills and have her credentials recognized, she was told that of the success that she's had in her career, they would only accept one credit of her master's, and it broke my heart. And I'd like to think that that was the only conversation I would have in the doorsteps of Langford, Juan de Fuca, but there was a lot more. And so I'm so proud of the work that our government has done on international credentials, and I can't wait to get to work engaging with the stakeholders in this community, talking to international students, talking to people from, again, all walks of life from around the world, to let them know that when they come here to British Columbia, when we ask them to make British Columbia their home, that we do so in a way that recognizes all the skills and contributions they've made in their home country, that we get rid of bureaucratic policies like the Canadian Work Experience and other things that hold them back, that hold their ability to be able to be doctors and nurses, hold their abilities to be able to take on important roles that we now need more than ever. We have 1 million job openings over the next decade here in British Columbia, and it's now more important than ever for us to be able to taking the steps on international credentials and a whole host of other important steps that our government has taken. Again, Madam Speaker, I really want to thank all of you for listening to me speak for the last 30 minutes. It has been an honor to be serving as the MLA for Langford, Juan de Fuca. I'm looking forward to continuing to do so throughout this legislative session. As we laid out the throne speech, we've got 20 pieces of legislation coming forward. We've got a budget being introduced tomorrow. We've got a lot of challenges ahead for British Columbia, but I'm proud to be part of a government that is focused each and every day on British Columbians. Because again, I'm going to say it again, British Columbians, the people of British Columbia, are our competitive advantage, and this side of the House will never forget that. Thank you very much.